So, welcome everyone. This is Rahul Reddy. I'm a CLAT mentor from Career Launcher Bangalore. I have with me Shivaani Joshi. Shivaani Joshi has scored an All India rank of 20 this year in CLAT 2025, and
21.
that also, sorry, my fault. So, All India rank of 21, and that corresponds to a state rank of 3, right? So, congratulations, Shivani.
Thank you, sir.
Right. So, uh, among all the surprises CLAT threw at us this year, one surprise was they said results on 9th and they gave it on 7th, right?
Definitely.
So, when did you check it?
I checked it like a full 24 hours later because
Oh,
I didn't even realize the results had come out. So in the morning
okay.
while going to AILET, I texted my friend. I was like, "Oh, shall I meet you at the center?" And then she was like, "Oh, did you check the results?" And I'm like, "There were results." So
Okay.
and then my parents had some work on that day, so we didn't get free time till like 9 o'clock in the evening of AILET. So that's when I
Okay.
checked it.
Very nice. So, it didn't affect AILET at all. So, you gave that and then came back
No,
and
I
checked.
did not want to risk Aliot with CLAT.
Wonderful. Wonderful. I'm sure AILET also went well. So, good. We'll talk about that later. Uh, of course, when you check the score based on the provisional answer key, I'm sure you were confident of getting a good score in the college that you want. But still, there are uncertainties given the key questions,
Because
objections, and so on.
everyone was saying that this year the cutoffs will go higher. So I wasn't even fully convinced that with my marks I would get into NLS even then.
But Shivani, didn't we say very specifically that this would be the cutoff?
Yes, so but then there was still that like fear of
I,
I put
I
2 years
understand.
of effort into this if it goes
I
away.
understand. I understand. So this is just for the viewers' understanding. Along with other CL mentors, I also give the exam every year. And because we take the exam personally and get the in-exam atmosphere, and we have analyzed the papers from God knows when, we have a pretty good idea of what it takes and what kind of score would be good enough. And on that day itself, we had said that this would be the cutoff for NLS with domicile and without domicile. And
Yes,
happy
sir,
to know that it came very, very close.
it was close.
I understand. There were a lot of institutes which were claiming it was easier, cutoff will go higher. Some were claiming 100 plus would be required, and so on.
I
And
think
that,
Times of India itself came out with like it was easier this time, the cutoffs will be higher.
right. I understand. See, Times of India is not an expert. They must have got it from some other training center or some other, supposed expert who said that. So can't blame Times of India. But I think experts should be more careful because it's not just if the prediction works, it's okay. Otherwise, no. It actually impacts people. That
Yeah,
we
it
should
makes the students panic and like affects their next studying.
absolutely, absolutely. Which was why I think the three, four of us who gave CLAT, we had a lot of debate. Siddharth sir was there, and Prasann was there, and others who had given CLAT. We debated, we compared, we went section by section, added up the scores, and then said, okay, this much, this would be enough. Right? Good.
Yes.
Right. I'm. It's a bit of surprise to know that this year I did badly. Okay, so it's a bit of a fall from where I was last year. So I moved down.
Because the paper was equally as bad.
Possibly, yes. But I also made a little bit of mistakes. I was really tired that day. I've actually went down from rank 3 last year to rank 221 this year. So big fall in that sense. Yes.
Oh.
Uh, right. Anyway, okay. So once you figured it out and checked the score, what was the reaction? It was like relief or elation? You wanted to scream or you just wanted to sit silently for some time?
Silently. It took a while to sink in. Like
Hmm.
I couldn't like it was just a number on the paper. It didn't like sink in that was 21 in a whole country of people who gave the exam.
And parents, how did they react?
They were very excited. They like fully started screaming and then like texting all their friends about it and stuff.
Okay. Wonderful. Good. Right. Now, uh, let's kind of turn the clock back. right? So when is it that you first got the idea that you'll take up law as a career?
I didn't really think about what career I was going to take properly till like 10th grade. And it was like when I was younger, I was more of like a science student. So everyone assumed I was going to take that. But then there was also like that, everyone had like this running joke that I was argumentative enough to become a lawyer, and that was probably what I was going to be. So after like in 10th, my interest slowly shifted more towards like politics and social science, and I always had an interest in English. So I think a natural meeting point of all of my interests happened to be law. And so in 10th grade, when I researched more about law, I figured out that this is where I see myself in the future, like 10 years in the future. So that's why I decided.
Right. So, easily accepted in the family, or there was some discussion about it, taking up law?
They didn't have a problem with me taking law exactly, but they wanted me to take science with it because my parents go to the court often because of some family things. So my mother's seen all the lawyers who work there, and she was fully convinced like that's where I'm going to end up, and she was like, you are not ending up there under any circumstances. So she was a little hesitant at first, and she wanted me to take science. But I think like once I convinced them enough that I'm not like 1 year down the line, I'm not going to suddenly change my interest from law into something else, and I'm like pretty set on this, then they were fine with me taking law with something else.
And I'm sure you told them that those lawyers that you saw in court are not the only type of lawyers. That there are,
Yeah.
you know,
I did tell them. I was like, I'm gonna do corporate law. Don't worry about it. I'm not gonna
right?
go there.
I'm not going to go to that court ever. So
Yeah, no.
okay, great, great. And okay, so do you remember the first day you joined Career Launcher?
Not exactly, but I remember like the vibe of the first few months of it. I attended every class like pretty. No, I fully attended all the classes because I have this thing of attendance. So it was really helpful at first because I did not have a starting point exactly on where to go off. So the classes were helpful because it was more of like a discussion based thing. And then there were no too many technical words, or they didn't directly jump into this is the formula you use. Like you have to do these steps to get this answer. It was very like working as a theory. Like they were like this is an answer, we derive it by this way. It was very discussion based, so that sort of helped me ease into the understanding of how you think to solve subjective questions like it comes in CLAT, because it's not like other subjects where there's like a set answer. You have to think like the CLAT wants you to think. So it was helpful.
Lot of parents, especially, they question, say, look, why are your classes so noisy? So I'm sure they are thinking of school classrooms, or they're thinking of, let's say, an IIT JEE classroom, which is definitely not like this. And say, "Okay, why is there so much noise? Why is there so much debate and like crisscross?" But I think we like it like this. So this actually works for this particular exam.
It's more helpful this way.
So any other key points from the prep that you'd like to highlight? What worked well for you?
I think it was mainly attending the classes and also doing the mocks, because it's only when you attend every single mock that you learn the skills that you can't teach someone how to manage time or like how to think, because if you have to solve one question in like less than a minute, so you don't have time to pause and think each question through. You sort of need to develop like an instinct to what would be the correct answer. So only through doing multiple mocks and the practice you get from them will you be able to develop that without thinking, like the fast thought process that you require. And you need to attend classes because you never know which class, which teacher will tell you that one thing that will stick with you. And like on the exam day, you're like, oh yeah, that one class the teacher told me that thing, that's important here. So I think it's more about like consistency. You always have to be there and do it.
So I'm sure a lot of times I've said the same thing. Look, this is an indicative pattern, 20 to 25 minutes for this section, 30 to 35 minutes. But allowing that flexibility for students to make their own plan. And they can't make their own plan unless they keep trying things. So you actually write the mock, see, okay, for me, I think I can do it 5 minutes faster for one section. For this section, I might need 5 minutes more. That customized plan is something that
Like for
only
me
develops through practice.
personally, I take longer to do math because no matter how much I practice, it sort of ends up being like I cannot go beyond the speed. So I need like half an hour to do my maths. And on the other hand, my reading is faster because I've always had like a habit of reading, not like intellectual books, but any kind of books. So my reading takes less time. So even in the final CLAT exam, I could finish the reading in less time. That gives me more time to do my math. So
And of course, while CLAT was a bit of a surprise, uh, I think you would have faced all kinds of surprises in the many, many mocks that you took at CL.
yes, all the mocks are of different kinds. I think I even wrote like a few mocks that were with the shorter passages that came in this CLAT sample paper. So it was a good array of mocks. It gave all sorts of questions. So you'd anything they gave you in the final test wasn't too out of the way.
Because a lot of questions keep arising. Like when the sample paper came, a lot of students said, "Look, I think mock should only be of this type," and I kept saying, "Look, it's only a sample paper. Don't take too much into it." And that's like we'll prepare you for that also, but it's no guarantee that the mock will represent the actual CLAT will represent the sample paper.
Yes, it was a good thing that all the mocks did not suddenly turn into short passage ones because the consortium just randomly gave us long passages again.
True. And yes, maths again is something that last entire year we've been consistently harping, saying maths is going to be a critical factor, and we need to get a minimum of 6, 7 marks in maths to have a good chance. So I'm sure. So time is not the issue as long as you manage the time. So I'm glad you did maths well. I'm sure that was also a factor that got the kind of rank you got. So
Yes.
doing well in maths was important, right? So one of the things that we keep saying that preparation for CLAT is not is also a social experience in the sense that it's not just you and the teacher, but there's the set of people, and some of them very talented, as dedicated as you are, and then it creates an atmosphere, an environment for people to excel, right? So, how
Definitely.
was the environment at the center that you were studying?
It was very intellectual, but not in like a forced, like stifling way. It was more of like we grow through discussion and fun experiences. Like if anyone heard any of the discussions that were going on in classes, I don't think they would think it was like intellectual in any way. But we learned through the most random discussions, and so it's like being intellectual and learning new things without necessarily like stifling yourself or feeling burnt out at the end of it. So it was a nice atmosphere, and like every time I went to the center, you could, especially towards the end, you could like see people sitting around with their like friend groups and stuff, and like discussing all the knowledge and information. And even with the teachers, like towards the end it became less of a class thing and more of a discussion which also involves the teacher. So it was the atmosphere at the center was what kept the motivation up for I think everybody at the end.
But this is again a common thing that I've noted from a lot of toppers, whether it is the Indranagar, the Jayanagar, the Malleshwaram, Koromangala centers, everywhere this group of really hardworking, talented students kind of working together. And it's very friendly in that sense while they're technically competitors, but there's a lot of support that we give each other, and that helps. You had your own buddy group that was there with you,
Yes,
formal,
sir.
informal.
It wasn't very big, but we had our own group, and after each mock, we discussed the answers. And because each person has their own strengths, so you learn from other people's strengths, and they learn from your strengths, and everyone just develops together.
So safe to assume that you will be joining NLS Bangalore.
Yes, sir.
Wonderful. So that's it's a good thing. It's a kind of a dream because that's the number one college. That's the dream, and it actually happens. And
Definitely.
I'm sure you met a lot of last year students when they came to meet the students while you were preparing. And
Yes, sir.
we hope that you will be there when we call for a meeting with the 26 CLAT students.
Definitely,
Uh,
sir.
as with every year, from our various centers, a very large contingent will be going to NLS. I think numbers already crossed 30 right now. So there'll be a
I
mini
think that will
CL kind
give
of
rise to
experience.
like a nice atmosphere where everyone you see isn't a stranger suddenly. Like you've studied with these people for the last 2 years, and
Yes,
it feels sort of comforting.
there'll be enough people that you've seen, both from this year and the last year, even seniors, a lot of CL Bangalore people who will be there. So in that sense, somebody to reach out in almost every batch, every senior group. It's wonderful, right? So people preparing for 2026 and beyond, what kind of tips that you can give?
I think so. Basically, firstly, you have to use your 2 years properly. So, in the first year, I suggest that they learn all the static concepts like the legal reasoning and the logical reasoning, all the theory that you need to learn. Because in the second year, you'll have to focus on your GK for the whole year, and that will take up a good chunk of your time. And also, your mocks start up in the second year. So, you need to focus on writing the mocks and analyzing them and fine tuning your accuracy and stuff. So your basic concepts, you cannot just relax in the first year. You need to focus on like hammering down your basic concepts so that in the second year you don't have that backlog of doing that later. And obviously consistency, because if you're not consistent, then you're gonna, because CLAT is all about how you think. So you need to train your mind to think in a certain way while solving the paper, so you don't waste time on like in the actual paper on debating whether or not you're thinking right. So if you stop being consistent, then your brain will just forget the pathway you have created, so as to speak. So you need to be consistent and also keep up your hopes till the end, because there's times when your mocks will go bad, and towards the end you're gonna like maybe feel like you're not doing properly. And if you lose hope then, and if you burn out then you just never know in the final exam. Like I'm pretty sure like a lot of people were surprised that I did this well, and I was surprised by me doing this well. But if I had given up when my mocks weren't that good, or when I wasn't getting the results I wanted, then I wouldn't be here today. So it's important to keep hopes till the last second of the exam, because maybe even if you have like 10 minutes left of your exam and you're like, okay, I messed this up, like I have 10 questions left, I cannot do this. You just never know till the last second. Maybe the questions turn out to be easy and then you got it. And also, another thing, while you're writing the actual paper, I think it's important to learn when to leave a question. Because this year, the analytical reasoning question that came, I heard from a lot of people that like they got stuck on doing that, and then maybe they lost time in maths, or there were like a few hard questions in maths and they got stuck on solving that and couldn't solve the rest of math. I think it's important that when you come to questions like that, you leave the question, you solve all the easy ones, and then you will definitely have time, and then you can come back and do it. So,
Wonderful. So, very important for all those watching to note. I think it's a mental strength issue, and it's true for all competitive exams, specifically true for CLAT. When you give so many marks, there will be times where you kind of worry that the score is dipping, and will it be enough, kind of thing comes in mind, and that's where mental strength and ability to analyze, learn, and keep moving, that helps, right?
yes,
So,
sir.
congratulations once again, Shivani. And
Thank you.
yes, we will be meeting whenever you can come to the center, and of course we'll have a party where all the CLAD 25 achievers will celebrate together. That will will be soon, right?
Definitely.
So thank you so much, and hope there will be some really interesting things to learn from the experience shared.
Yes, thank you, sir.